My name is Paul. I'm an alcoholic. It's good to be here and it's good to be sober. Oh, the committee left a little note. It's been a wonderful weekend so far. Try not to screw it up, Paul. Okay, well, I really appreciate that. We'll close it up and move right along. I want to thank the committee for being so understanding. And I want to thank Steve for picking me up at the airport here this afternoon. And I know there's plenty of people that could be standing here tonight. So the fact that you asked me to come and stand here tonight is a great honour and a great privilege, and one I don't take lightly. And I'm so glad I did get here, because what a beautiful hotel. I mean, the towels in my room are so big and soft and fluffy, I can't tell you the trouble I just had getting them into my suitcase, you know. But they're really pushed down to get them all in there, you know. And progress, not perfection, right? And but seriously, it's so good to be here. And I called my sponsor earlier on. He says, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm in Little Rock, Arkansas." He says, "You went all the way to Little Rock, Arkansas to talk? How far would you go to listen?" You know, and like, but I told him I loved him, which is progress for me in Alcoholics Anonymous. Before I came to AA, I was a bit like the Irish guy who loved his wife so much he almost told her, you know. So I'm growing in Alcoholics Anonymous. And if you see on the thing, I'm from Rockaway Beach, New York City. I don't know if you know Rockaway Beach, New York City. It's a big Irish-American neighborhood. And people will say, "Oh, Rockaway Beach, the Irish Riviera." We know it better in AA as cirrhosis by the sea. There's two types of people in Rockaway Beach: those that are in AA and those that should be in AA, you know. So I'm right where I belong. If you're looking for 12-step work, please come and see us in Rockaway Beach. And we know we got some new people here tonight. I want to welcome you to Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not here to sell AA tonight. It sells itself. This is attraction by promotion. And I know if you're new, you're probably thinking, we have a pamphlet, I'm an alcoholic, you know, 10 questions, 20 questions. Well, maybe this will clear it up for you. There's a guy who's 25 years sober, and he's out on a blind date with this normal drinker. And she's having a glass of wine at dinner, and he's having a glass of water. And about halfway through dinner, she says, "I notice you don't drink." He says, "No, I don't drink." She goes, "You don't drink at all?" He says, "Not." She goes, "Not even one?" He says, "Not even one drop." She goes, "Oh my goodness, what would happen if you took one drink?" And he said, he sat back and he thought for a second. He says, "Well, just imagine you wake up tomorrow morning and your money's gone. Your credit cards are gone. Your phone's gone. Your car's gone." She says, "That would happen to you if you took one drink?" He says, "No, it happened to you if I took one drink." And if you think that's funny, you're probably an alcoholic. And if you don't think it's funny, I hope you enjoyed the Al-Anon talk earlier this afternoon. I'm just joking. I love Al-Anon. As I said here, if you are new, I want to welcome you to AA. This is the last thing I tried and the first thing that ever worked. I love the fact that in Alcoholics Anonymous, we're a fellowship of equals. I love the fact that our fellowship, it's egalitarian. It's not a hierarchy. It's horizontal. It's not vertical. We're all here together staying sober. And if you're new here tonight, don't think that you've got nothing to offer Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, AA is the only place I know where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And everyone in here has got worth and value tonight. Whether you're a day sober, a month sober, a year sober, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. My sponsor talks about that analogy of the AA campfire. And we all come and sit here tonight round the AA campfire. And I showed up with my damp log, dripping with vodka, throw it onto the fire, and everybody... Because the funny thing about Alcoholics Anonymous is you can't light your own log. I need these people to help me stay sober. So if you're new here tonight, Just don't think you've got to meet AA. AA will meet you exactly where you are tonight. It will. I mean, if you stay in AA for a while, you'll get longevity, but not seniority. If I think I'm better than somebody else because I'm here a few 24s, shame on me. You know, we all do together what I can't do alone. And I think Bill Wilson got that from day one. You know, I sometimes go in there on December 11th, the town's hospital. It's not a hospital anymore where Bill Wilson got sober on December 11th, 1934. And I don't know what happened in that room that night, but something happened. And Bill talks about it in his story, and he talks about it in different letters. And he had this thought. It wouldn't have been my first thought. I'm a sort of a pull the gangplank up, I'm on board type of guy, you know. He had this thought. He thought, surely there must be other people out there like me. And before he left the hospital, it says in the doctor's opinion, he requested the privilege of speaking with other alcoholics. I mean, we didn't have steps, we didn't have literature, but we had each other. And Bill Wilson was trying to practice the principles of the 12th step even before they were written. And it's not so true in my life. If I'm not trying to practice the 12th step of AA, putting my hand out to the new person, what am I doing here? I'm working an 11-step program. An 11-step program for a guy like me is nothing more than a self-help program. It's a highly evolved self-help program, but it's all about me. And I need you people. I mean, alcoholism, I believe, is a disease of disconnection. You know where my alcoholism operates? From the neck up. It wants me talking to me about me. That's a conversation I can't have. That's a conversation that doesn't end very well. And what you beautiful people, I hope here tonight, I don't talk to an alcoholic. I hope I don't talk at an alcoholic. I hope and pray I don't get up the spiritual hilltop and talk down to an alcoholic. What is AA? Like Bill Wilson tried in that hospital. It's one alcoholic talking with another alcoholic to remove feelings of differentness and separateness and uniqueness. I am you and you are me. I was very friendly with Liz B. I'm sure there's somebody in this room knows Liz. Liz was the first African-American woman to get sober in AA. And she died last year. She was 100 years old, a month shy of 70 years sober. She came into AA in July of 1952. Spoke at Bill Wilson's 28th anniversary. And Liz would always say when she was sharing, without you, there's no me. It's so true, so simple, but so deeply profound. If I'm doing AA alone, I'm not doing AA. There's a friend of mine who said, it's BB. I said, what's BB? He said, I don't know, but it's not AA, you know. And the whole program here, steps into... See, my disease tells me this is where the big show's going on. Lights, camera, action. Use people tell me. Because when you talk about you, I find out about me. And use people drag me sometimes kicking and screaming down to where the real show is going on. My disease speaks the language of the head. Thank God in Alcoholics Anonymous we speak a different language. We speak the language of the heart. And it's one alcoholic talking with another alcoholic to remove feelings of differentness and separateness and uniqueness. I am you and you me in this lifeboat of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I just love that fact, you know. I mean, even here tonight I got here. I mean, there's not... I just got here earlier on, even meeting Steve in the car. Within a few minutes, we're chatting away. A is the only place I know where you can walk in a room full of strangers and start reminiscing. I mean, you're my people. If I want to know something about the guy who lives next door to me at home, I might have to ask him, what college did you go to? Are you a Yankee fan or a Met fan, a Jets or Giants? Not in AA. You tell me you're an alcoholic, I know enough. I knew you've experienced terror, frustration, bewilderment, despair. I know you put a drink to your lips as the tears were rolling down your face and you drank it anyway. I know that friends and family and sometimes on bended knee begged me not to drink. And for goodness sake, at the end of my drinking, I was drinking against my own will. I know that because I'm an alcoholic. And I know that about you because you tell me you're an alcoholic. James Joyce has got a great line in one of his books. And he's talking about Dublin. But it's so indicative of AA. He says, here comes everybody. Look around, we're all here. Gender, colour, creed, doesn't matter. You tell me you're an alcoholic, there's more unites us right there than ever divides us. And my own story, what does Hemingway say? All writers tell the same story, and all alcoholics tell the same story. I guarantee that there's not a person in here. I remember the first time I heard the word, and I'd heard them separately, but the first time I heard the words read at an AA meeting, pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. I didn't have to say to the guy next to me, what are they talking about here? I mean, what exactly? We all know that. It's seared on our souls. We get that. I'm so glad. Thank you for keeping me sober. I'm a great believer that spiritual energy is like electricity. It flows from positive to negative, not the other way around. If you're new here, now don't get me wrong, I'm not going to start singing, you are the wind beneath my wings. But you people held me up when I crawled in through the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous. And my own story, I know this may come as a shock to some people here tonight, but I'm not from the neighborhood originally, you know. It's about 35 years now since I left my native Cuba. And I'm from Belfast in Northern Ireland. And I'm sorry, we talk fast, drunk or sober. You know. Lee's running 2 copies, an English-speaking version and an Irish-speaking version right now. In fact, I spoke at a meeting recently and a guy came up to me afterwards. He goes, that looked like a great talk. I wish it was closed captioned so I knew what the hell you were saying. And I told him I loved him too, which I'm really growing in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm from Belfast, just outside of Belfast in Northern Ireland, and the sort of neighbourhood I came from, if you didn't drink, you moved. Everybody drank. It was a working class neighbourhood, hard drinking. I knew what public drunkenness looked like. I knew what it looked like in my own home. I mean, I've heard people tell different stories. I mean, I love what it says in the big book about this disease. Like, I used to get a lot of mental gymnastics. Why did I become an alcoholic? When did I become an alcoholic? Why did I become an alcoholic? You know the old alcoholic conundrum, what came first, the chicken or the keg? You know, a lot of guys that get drunk I just have to accept the fact tonight that I am an alcoholic. I mean, everything I needed to know, I found out at my first meeting. That my name is Paul, and I'm an alcoholic. Because that tells me who I am, what I am, where I am, and what I need to be doing. And thank God the old-timers told me. They didn't tell me my life was going to get better. They told me, if you make that the central fact of your life, you will get better. I mean, it is a funny place, right? They don't tell you 100 different things one time. They tell you 3 or 4 things 100 times over. And I got to hear from you and you and you. A friend of ours says we all sing off the same song sheet, but with different voices. And you people did that for me. If you're new here tonight, stay right in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous. There's a line in the big book in chapter 4. It talks about the old ancient theory of the flat earth, right? I'm a great believer that the AA world is a flat earth. If I go to the age of AA, I'm going off. And the thing about going to the age of AA, it's a drift. It's almost a glacial drift. And you don't realize you're going till you're gone. And by the time you get to the edge of AA, if there's any signposts, there are language you don't speak anymore. The language you don't understand anymore. So don't go there. Stay with us right in the middle of AA. And my own story, like an alcoholic, was it nature? Was it nurture? Was I born an alcoholic? Did I become an alcoholic? Was I a symptom looking for disease? I don't know, and I could care less tonight. I like what our literature says. We cannot answer the riddle. Acceptance is the answer. Now, I've heard people tell different stories from the podium. Some people were successful in their lives. Some people had a modicum of success. That's not my story. I came out of the starting blocks at 15 years of age and went flat on my face. Within 6 months, it's amazing, this disease. They talk about the herbaceous creditor, right? When I was taking that first drink up a back alley outside of Belfast, when I was 15 years of age, and I'm putting that first drink to my lips, I loved it was just recently at Christmas time, I loved that book and the movie A Christmas Carol. Because it's such an allegory for life, right? You got the ghost of the past, and the ghost of the present, and the ghost of the future. When I was putting that first drink to my lips, if the ghost of my alcoholic future had stepped up and tapped me on the shoulder and said, I want to show you something. Look in that window. You see that guy drinking around the clock against his own will? You see that guy who's got quicksand stretched around him in all directions? You see that guy that's pushed away everybody who loved him for drink? That will be you in 15 years. I'd have said, you're out of your mind. You must be thinking of somebody else. But that's exactly what happened. I wouldn't let another man do to me what I allowed drink to do to me. I'm not a violent man. Only ever had one bar fight, and that was a draw. Although most people watching said that she won. We'll move quickly on from that. Right, in the Merchant of Venice, Shylock just wanted £1. Not this disease. This disease will take my job. It'll take my car. It'll take my wife. It'll take my kids. It'll take the shirt off my back. But what it really wants is me 6 feet under. There's a lot of terminal diseases out there tonight. I'm not familiar with those, but I'm familiar with this one. This disease, alcoholism, will kill me stone dead with or without a drink in my body. I don't need booze in my body to burn my life to the ground. I almost done it in AA because I wouldn't accept these spiritual principles. I wouldn't accept there was more wrong with me than alcohol, and it was going to take more than putting a plug in the jug to get me well in AA. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I took that first drink, and as I said, it was like Bill Wilson says in his story, I go down a ski jump. Within 6 months, I'm getting my stomach pumped out in the local hospital on a school night. And they told my parents, it's a good job you brought him here. He probably would have died of alcoholic poisoning. Before I'm out of my teens, I'm a daily drinker if I have the money. Before I'm out of my teens, I'm taking morning drink if I have the opportunity. And it got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse. But if you're new here tonight, sobriety is progressive as well. Now, I'm not going to stand up here like some snake oil salesman. There's things I lost through drinking, and they didn't come back. There's things you might have lost through drinking, and they might not come back. Thank God for these steps. I mean, think about it. Who among us could live with the guilt and the shame and remorse of our drinking if it wasn't for the 12 steps to alleviate that? I wasn't a sociopath. I knew the bridges I burned, the doors I slammed, the people I walked away from. I can't change my past, but AA has allowed me to come to terms with my past today. So my life's fallen apart in Northern Ireland. I don't know if you know Irish history, but I grew up in Northern Ireland during the Troubles with this low-level civil war going on. I was a working-class Catholic from the wrong side of the tracks, had a big chip on my shoulder. In fact, when I got to AA, a guy says to me, You know something? You're a well-balanced guy. I said, finally, somebody knows what's going on around here, you know. He says, yes, you got a chip on both shoulders, you know. Hated everything, can always find the needle in the haystack. That's me. So my life's falling apart in Northern Ireland, but I don't want to look in. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a finger pointer. I'm always into the blame game. It's no coincidence I'm standing in America with an Irish accent as a runner, a long-distance runner, looking for that outside fix for the inside job. If I can just get the right job and the right relationship, the right country, the right continent. You get to AA in the first 90 days, you find out it's an inside job. Only when I worked on the inside that the things out here started to fall into place. So like I went to my father one night. Well, things were so dramatic. I said, Dad, sit down, I got some bad news for you. He said, what is it? I said, I'm going to America. And don't try and talk me out of it. He says, talk you out of it? I'll help you pack. On you go, Columbus. Let me give you some folly advice. Turn left at Greenland, you know. I know we got some new people here tonight that might know this. That Columbus was actually an alcoholic. When you think about it, he must have been an alcoholic. When he set off, he didn't know where he was going. When he got there, he didn't know where he was. When he got back, he didn't know where he had been. And he got a woman to pay for the trip, not once, but twice. So you know he might have been an alcoholic. So I jump on an Aer Lingus plane, I end up in Rockaway Beach, but the first thing I'm packing out of the case is me. Everywhere I go, there I am. I got a job as a bartender in Rockaway Beach. Now, I hold the distinct title of being the worst bartender in the worst bar in Rockaway Beach. I mean, there was some pretty stiff competition, but I managed to hold the crown. I worked in a bar. You all look like nice people. I worked in a bar. We had a bouncer on the door, but he was there to throw people into the bar. You know the sort of a bar, I mean, this bar had it all. Alcoholics, drug addicts, degenerate gamblers, and that was just the staff. That wasn't even the customers. You know the sort of a bar, if you want to see a full set of teeth, you need 32 customers. You know what I'm saying? For a high-end. I'm looking at these beautiful women here tonight. This bar, on ladies' night, most of the women that come into the bar, they look like they put their makeup on when they were jumping up and down on a trampoline. Like over here, back here. But water finds its own level and so do alcoholics. I fit in like a glove. I used to bartend from 6 o'clock at night to 4 in the morning. I mean, it's so sad, actually. I worked in a job where I could walk behind the stick at 6 o'clock at night and pour myself a drink and put it in the speed rack and drink all night. And the end of my drinking, I couldn't even get to that job. Fears, phobias, hang-ups. What's the old saying? Booze give me the wings to fly, and then it took away the sky. The herbaceous creditor. I mean, I've experienced every form of drinking. I was a weekend drinker. As a kid, a daily drinker, a morning drinker, a binge drinking. I hit my first hospital when I'm 25. And by the time I'm 27, I'm trying to stop drinking. I'm doing what it says there. Like, no, I stopped, but I can't stay stopped. You know what AA has done for me that I can never repay them for? AA has given me something between me and the first drink. You'll hear people saying AA, oh, you're just an arm's length away from a drink. I suppose technically that is true. Right here tonight. I don't know about tomorrow, but right here tonight. I'm not an arm's length away from a drink. I'm 12 steps away from a drink. And that's a long, long way from when I first walked into AA. But don't get me wrong. They're not 12 steps up to anything. They're 12 steps down to humility. I've seen people drink again in AA that I thought would never drink again. And it could be me. I realize today, and I hope I don't forget tomorrow, I get a daily reprieve, not a lifetime pardon. The day that I wake up in the morning and think I'm staying sober is the day I'm getting ready to get drunk again. But we do together what I can't do alone. And I almost went to the graveyard thinking that I had a drinking problem. Our book talks about it. A drinking problem is solved by not drinking. It gives a couple of examples. A medical reason. A romantic reason. A change of environment. And those people can stop or even moderate. But then it talks about us. What about the real alcoholic? I don't have a drinking problem. I have alcoholism. And that's a horse of a different color. Yes, it's physical. You can't enjoy the benefits of being sober and drink booze at the same time. I know that sounds like a no-brainer. You'd be surprised. But it's also mental and it's spiritual and wrapped up in a body full of childish emotions that I have. I'll give you one vignette that just sums this up. I'm on this drunk. At this stage of my drinking, barroom drinking is a memory. I love nothing more than to lock myself in the apartment, close the blinds, and just go at it round the clock. Here's a recipe for unhappiness. Lock yourself in the apartment, turn the phone off, close the blinds, get as much booze as you can, and play the saddest blues music. I would listen to stuff like the great Warren Zevon. If you won't leave me, I'll find somebody that will. You know, those sort of songs alcoholics like to listen to. Or the Al-Anon version of that song. If you leave me, can I come too? I'm just joking. This lady's going to kill me here, I know. So I'm in this apartment and I run out of drink. And I always know where to get drink. I'm a bartender in Rockaway, so I go down to this local bar in the middle of the night, knock on the side door. The guy recognizes me, brings me in, puts a bottle of Doers up on the counter and a few beers. Anyway, I collapsed in the bar, an alcoholic seizure. I had seizures before. I wake up in the local hospital in Rockaway. I'm convulsing so bad that they put me on a restraining sheet and jacked me up full of Librium. And finally, I come down off the ceiling. And there's this woman standing at the bedside. And with this, on again, off again relationship. And they took the restraining cuffs off. And I took her hand. And I wasn't trying to be cinematic. But I took her hand and I said to her, I can't drink. It's obvious I can't drink. And I will never, ever drink again. That's it. I'm done, over, finished. If they'd have put me in a lie detector machine in that hospital room, I would have passed with flying colours. Because I meant it at a visceral level. What does Bill Wilson say in his story? Self-knowledge? Surely that's the answer. No, it's not. If knowing I'm an alcoholic, it's not enough for me. If this is a one-step program, I'm a dead man walking. Because I always drink again. And I always will drink again. If you're new here tonight, I left that hospital convinced that I was done with drinking. A week goes by, and I get a week. All of a sudden, I get this stone in my shoe. I don't know where it comes from, but it's there all the time. 2 weeks go by. I've got this knot in my stomach. I don't know where it came from, but it's there all the time. 3 weeks go by, and I got 3 weeks. The top button of my shirt feels tight. I'm talking through gritted teeth. A month goes by. You could fry eggs in the back of my neck. Now, I submit to you, after 30 days, you put me in any machine in the world, you will not find a trace of alcohol in my body. That's not a drinking problem. That's a living sober problem. And that's why I need everything that's on offer here tonight. And don't think, if you're new here tonight, you might be sitting out there tonight saying, Paul, That's okay for you. You guys look like you're sober a while. You hear that analogy, you go 10 miles into the forest, you got to go 10 miles out. I don't believe that in AA. I don't care how deep and how dark and how painful the forest you're in is tonight. AA tells me, and I will tell you, you're just 12 steps away from a new life. 12 steps away from a brand new life. And the steps seem like a foreign concept. We have a symbol in AA. It's a triangle inside a circle. And there's 3 parts to it. Unity, service, and recovery. And I believe from your first meeting here tonight, you can put all 3 parts of that triangle into your life. Unity. We do together what I can't do alone. Many meetings make it easy. Few make it hard. None make it impossible. I need you and you need me. And that's okay by me. Service. One of our speakers that passed away used to say, the highest pay grade in AA is servant. You put away one more chair than the one you sat on, you're doing service. Recovery. Maybe the 12 steps seem like a foreign concept. We have slogans in AA. Easy does it. Live and let live. One day at a time. They were like the banisters to the steps. As I put my foot in step 1, they kept me steady. Now I'm here to tell you from personal experience, you can stay dry on 2 parts of the triangle. I've done it. You can even stay dry on 1 part of the triangle. I've done that too. But if I want to get free from the one guy I can never get free from, which is me, and live in the one place I've never lived, I got to put all 3 parts into my life. And I got to do it every day. But what a small price to pay for the life that AA has given me. But I didn't know that back then. I left that hospital and I drank again after those 30 days. And that woman said what non-alcoholics say, I got to get away from you before I end up in an asylum. And I say what alcoholics say, I don't need you. I don't need nobody. And I drank for 2.5 more years after that. Bottoms to bottoms. I love when someone's telling their story. And it goes down and it goes down. And then they say what I believe is the most spiritual words in an AA talk. And then. There's not a person in here tonight that's got 1 day or more that hasn't had an and then moment. When I hear an alcoholic say and then, I sit up because I know God's coming the next sentence. And this is my and then moment. I'm in that apartment, on another drunk. You wake up, you know how is it dawn or is it dusk? Who cares? And I remember looking in the mirror and I caught my reflection and I'm putting a bottle of vodka to my lips. I'm not drinking for good times. I'm drinking for unconscious time. I know my life's a disaster, but if I can just keep enough of this vodka down, maybe the pain will just go away for a couple of hours. What does Bill say? 2 bottles oblivion? And I catch my reflection and I think to myself, what the hell happened to me? What happened to that 15-year-old kid back in Belfast that thought he was going to be the next George? What happened? The herbaceous creditor? And a piece of paper came under my door. It's strange, you know, a piece of paper coming under your door. I looked at this piece of paper and it said what I've been hearing since I was 16. Paul, you're a nice guy, but you drink too much. And I had a man's telephone number on it. It's strange enough, a piece of paper coming under your door. The stranger thing is, I called the number. Because I'm Irish, I'm stoic. Don't tell nobody nothing. I had built these walls high and I built them deep. You weren't getting in, but I wasn't getting out. And I built them brick by brick, 1 drink at a time. I did. Nobody else did. And I picked up the phone and this wonderful lady from Al-Anon answered the phone, Kitty. And she says, Jerry, I think it's that Irish guy. And I heard him coming to the phone. This was my and then moment. He was in the old South Bronx group in New York. And that group had a mantra. We don't give up on anybody. What a great mantra for a home group. And he asked me where I was, and I told him. He says, me and another guy is going to come to your apartment. Just two regular guys. One guy was a subway conductor. The other guy was a commercial removals guy in Manhattan. But like our book says, they were armed with the facts about themselves. Now, I thought they were going to come to my apartment and talk to me about my drinking. Because back in August of 92, the few people left in my life, that's what they wanted to talk about. Maybe you've had these conversations. Paul, we need to talk about your drinking. And what does Dr. Bob said? I'll be getting scolded. Do you know what you did? Yes, you're right. You're right. And as they're talking to me, I'm thinking to myself, I wish they would go away so I can go drinking again. It makes perfect sense to me now that God, in His infinite wisdom, would use alcoholics to get alcoholics sober. Because I listened to nobody. Since I was a kid, soccer coaches, mother, father, girlfriends, in one ear, out the other ear. But I'll listen with you, because you're my people. And these two guys come over, and here's the strange thing. They walked into my apartment, they sat down, and they didn't talk about my drinking. They talked about their drinking. And they told story after story of their drinking. What does Dr. Bob say when he first met Bill Wilson? It was the first human being he had ever met that he felt fully understood him, and not because he read it in a book somewhere. I mean, that's what we have here. Our most prized possession is identification. You talk about you, and I find out about me. And these guys, I told these two men in 20 minutes something I hadn't even told myself. I caught up the big fur ball, and I said to this guy, I can't stop drinking. I don't know what's wrong with me. The last time they put me in a hospital, I was drinking the same day as I got out of the hospital. What's wrong with me? And the guy put his arm around me and he said what I believe is the most beautiful words a suffering alcoholic can hear. He said, help is on the way. If you're new here tonight, let me put my arm around you and tell you that help is on the way. That you, if I live to be 100, I'll never feel as old as I felt that day. And these two guys, about 36 hours later, I got bookended into a car and got brought to my first meeting of AA. And walking in the doors of an AA meeting is the greatest singular event in my life. Everything else is secondary and tertiary. I'm so glad there wasn't a guy at the first meeting saying, Paul, with a clipboard, hey, check the box for what you want. I would have checked the box for not drinking. And I would have shortchanged myself. Yes, I got that. But I got so much more. Because I had lost me, I had lost you, and I had lost him. And I got them all back a day at a time in Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, I'd like to tell you in the end of my talk here that at that first meeting, I took a ball and scored a touchdown. But I came into AA with a lot of old ideas. Our book says you have to let go absolutely of all your old ideas. And I came in here with a lot of old ideas. Barroom mentality. Barroom mentality that might serve me well at 7:30, at 4 o'clock in the morning in some gin mill, but was not serving me in AA. And I'm here to tell you from personal experience, you can fool them at the coffee pot at 7:30 at night. I've done it. How's it going, Paul? Oh, it's going great. You know when untreated alcoholism would come to visit me? 2 o'clock in the morning. With the could-haves and the should-haves and the would-haves and the guilt and the shame and remorse. And every night at 3 o'clock in the morning, this book would magically appear on my bedside table. And it wasn't a big book. It was called Where I Should Be in My Life by Now by Paul McQ. I hope you don't have that book at home. If you do, throw it out. You start reading that book at 3 o'clock in the morning with no drink and no program, you're going to put a rope over the rafters. I had a sponsor, name only. You can bring a horse to water, you can make him thirsty, but you know how that analogy ends. I went about as far. I was doing unity. I was going to plenty of meetings. Service. I said, I'm making more coffee than Juan Valdez. Are you kidding me? But I wouldn't do door number 3. I wouldn't do recovery. The 12 steps seemed touchy, feely. I said, I'll do these steps. I'll have wind chimes hanging up around the house, you know. Wearing flip-flops in the wintertime, you know. Joining Oprah's book club, you know. Contempt prior to investigation. You're looking at it. Personified. And my ego. Oh, my God. Harry Tebow, a great friend of AA, talked about the recuperative power of the alcoholic ego. My ego is so defended in the rooms of AA. There was people pointing to the steps. Good people pointing to traditions, pointing to the triangle. But my ego is so defended that rather than look at what you're pointing at, you know what I do? I look at who's doing the pointing. And I find fault with you. And that allows me to dismiss you, disregard you, and disengage with you. And rather than look at what you're pointing at, I'm focusing on you. I mean, it's unbelievable, the defense of the alcoholic ego. I almost want, people are trying to give me information that will ultimately save my life. You know what I'm like? I'm like the Heisman Trophy. It's insanity. What's the old saying? I mean, my self-knowledge. What's the old joke? They could be lowering me into the ground, and they're putting the coffin in, and they hear a voice. What's that voice? I was right. It sounds funny, but you'd be surprised. I will defend my right to be right to the graveyard. How sick is that? That's alcoholism. And against my better judgment, I bottomed out. A guy came over to me in a meeting one night, and he wasn't my sponsor. This guy came over and he says, Paul, can I talk to you for a second? I said, sure. He says, you're dying. And you're dying right in the middle of AA. He says, you know what you're like? You're like a starving man at a spiritual banquet. There's all this food on offer, and you're living on bread and water. He says, you know how I know? I've been there myself. I still wasn't convinced. The next day, I'm 2.5 years off drink, doing unity and service, no program. I didn't know much money when I came into AA. 2.5 years into AA, I'm thousands upon thousands of dollars in debt. And I know why today. I was still trying to fill the hole in my soul with outside stuff. Take a trip to the Caribbean, charge it in the credit card, but I always end up with the same equation. Me on me, and it can't get me off of me. I'm shackled to self by the very nature of this disease. We don't do the steps because they're nice. We do them because they're necessary for recovery. I mean, I had some symbolic victories, but no permanence. So that guy talks to me. The next day, I'm driving out of the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel onto the Gowanus Expressway. I don't know if you know New York City. 6 lanes, rush hour traffic. And a guy cut me off. I'm like, oh, really? I chase after him. I jam him against the guardrail. I'm blocking 3 lanes of rush hour traffic. 2.5 years off drink, no program. I'm not that type of guy. I go back to the guy's car. I don't care who's behind the wheel. There's an Asian man shaking. His wife's crying in the passenger seat, and his 3 children are crying in the back of the car. I apologized profusely. I got back in the car, my own car. I hit my head on the steering wheel, and I said, I'm crazier off drink than I was on it. And in some respects, that's true. I've been to the jumping off place twice in my life. Once with drink, and once with no drink, but no program. It's a different type of pain, but pain nonetheless. I got back in my own car. I drove straight to my sponsor's house in name only. Sober a long time, but you can only help somebody that wants to be helped. And he was sitting back smoking a big cigar. I says, Jimmy, I got to talk to you. He said, what is it? And I told him what I just told you. And he sat back and he goes, how old were you when this happened? I said, Jimmy, this happened 20 minutes ago on the Gowanus Expressway. Remember, we're getting like lost in translation here. I get you hooked on phonics, the Shamrock version. And he coined that phrase, Dr. Tebow coined that phrase, His Majesty the baby. He says, you're like a child in a man's body. You've been tiptoeing around this program, doing it your way. If you don't get into this program, if you don't get free from the one guy you've never got free from, which is you, and start living where you've never lived, which is here and now, your life's going to go unlived, and that's on you. Isn't that so true? We talk about all the terrible things that happen out there. You know, the saddest thing is the unlived life sitting in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. He said, I'm going to tell you something. This is your miracle. The least you can do is participate in it. If you're where I was and being a spectator at your own miracle, please get all the way in. Alcoholics Anonymous, it's organic, it's living, it's breathing. You got to get your hands into Alcoholics Anonymous. Actually, I looked at the steps. I had this thing all wrong. I looked at the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous like they were informative. Yeah, I'm an alcoholic, I need God, I should take it. I realized tonight the steps of AA are not informative, they're transformative. If you're new here tonight and you go through those steps with a sponsor, I guarantee you that you're a different person at step 12 than you were at step 1, whether you want to be or not. Now, you can go through willingly or kicking and screaming, but you are a different person at 12 than you were at 1. I can stand on firm ground tonight in saying that. And I get into the steps of AA. Is it nice to do the steps of AA and find out who you are and who you're not? Yeah, it's nice. Get a full knowledge of your condition? Yeah, it's nice. But you know what my life caught on fire? When I turned around and I tried to bring another man through the program. That's when great events came to pass in my life. Isn't that the way this goes? Bill went looking for Bob. They went to Bill D. And we can trace this moment in time back to that moment in time. I'm not going to stand here tonight in the last few minutes and tell you everything was wonderful. No. Life goes on. If you're new here tonight, getting sober is probably the hardest thing you will ever do in your life, except one other thing. Drink yourself to death. And the roller coaster goes up and the roller coaster goes down. Just don't get off. Stay on. Ride it out. I know we throw the word miracle around a lot in AA. What is a miracle? It's a complete reversal or upheaval of the laws of nature. It's in my nature to be lying drunk somewhere tonight, and I'm not. Now, how did that happen? It didn't happen because of me. It happened because of Alcoholics Anonymous. And if you're new here tonight, and I stand on firm ground again, and this is not a sales pitch, there's a miracle here with your name on it. Nobody can take it for you, and nobody can take it from you. Come in. What does George Eliot, the writer, says? It's never too late to live the life you're meant to live. That's been my experience in AA. 2 lives in 1 lifetime. I don't see it anywhere else, but I see it in AA. And it hasn't been all rainbows and unicorns. The man right here to tell you. And through a divorce at 20 years sober, resentment to here, habit up to here. Another guy involved, terrible. But here's the good news. Because of used people, because of Alcoholics Anonymous, I never have to go through anything alone again. If I'm going through something alone in AA, it's because I want to. You know what gets you in trouble in AA when you've been sober a while? Spiritual pride. How can I go to my home group at 20 years sober and tell them my life's falling apart? Well, I don't need to do a PowerPoint presentation. But somebody has to know what time of day it is in my spiritual world. I need to be actively, thank God for sponsorship at that time. I need somebody. What's the old saying in AA? When you're inside the jar, you can't read the label. I need somebody stand outside the jar who will say, Paul, it may appear that way, but that's not what's happening. Because alcoholism is a disease of perception. People don't see things as they are. They see things as they are. And when I'm shackled to self, I need somebody to take the blinkers off and give me a total view rather than a partial glimpse. And I got through that difficult time. It was terrible. But I got through it with your help a day at a time. Got divorced and ended up, Frank and Maggie know, Lee knows, ended up got married again in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I got 2 daughters at home. I got one in college and I got one in kindergarten. I know what you're thinking. This guy doesn't look old enough to have a girl in kindergarten. I mean, like, who gets the tuition, who gets the lunch money, you know? The jokes write themselves, you know? In fact, when my wife was pregnant with my little girl, my second wife, her greatest fear was she was going to walk into the living room and realize that somebody's diaper needs changed, and she wasn't sure it was mine or the baby's, you know? And a day at a time with your help. I'll just end on a couple of stories. That oldest girl from my first marriage, her name is Kristen. My little girl's called Dahlia. Dahlia was 6 on Monday, and Kristen's 19. We've got a local theatre group, and they put on a musical every year, and they put on the musical Legally Blonde. And my daughter got the role of Elle Woods. She's a good singer, you know, and she loves that. That's her people, the theatre people, you know. And because of Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm sitting in the front row every night. Now, if I tell the guy next door to me, who's a non-alcoholic, hey, you know, I was sitting in the front row every night with a bunch of flowers, you go, what, do you want a medal? But I tell you, because you know, and I hope I don't forget, you put 1 drink in me, not 5, not 10, 1. I'm not sitting in the front row. I'm sitting in some pub telling somebody about my daughter in the show, but I ain't there. I'm a no-show. Thank God, because of Alcoholics Anonymous, I get to show up in my life today and in your life too. And the little one, her last birthday, the one before this, she was into the Lion King. And I was going to say we, but my wife decorated the whole house like the Lion King. And she got up that morning and she was like, and she put her hands up and I lifted her up and she whispered in my ear, she says, Daddy, I want to be 5 forever. That's what I was looking for in vodka. But it was bogus. It was counterfeit. It was phony. Alcohol promised, but it never delivered. AA promises and delivers and promises and delivers. That's been my experience in AA. Now, every day is not Legally Blonde shows and 5th birthday parties. But one of our speakers that passed away used to talk about the golden memories of her sober life. The golden memories that AA has given me. What does Roar say? Life is lived forward but understood backwards. I look back at my life. My higher power was always there. Even when I was lying on a barroom floor, so drunk that I couldn't stand on my own 2 feet, my higher power was there. I was just so marred in alcoholism that I couldn't. But he was always there. That's been my experience in AA. So if you're new here tonight, those golden memories of a sober life. And I want to thank the committee. I don't want to be too cryptic, but my wife had ankle surgery on Tuesday, and I had to change. I just come down here to change my flight, and the committee was so understanding, and I really thanked them for that. And my wife, she's an AA too, so she, with her one good leg, kicked me out the door and says, "You got to go and keep your commitment, you know." And I'm so glad I was able to spend time here with you. It's been short, but so very, very sweet. And I'd like to end on a few words that sum up how I feel about you and how I feel about Alcoholics Anonymous. This is the Irish blessing. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and the rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Thank you so much.
Here's my closing.